between the ages of 9 and 13, your girl was out here hustling and selling everything you can imagine door to door. Let me not, that might have been the wrong way to say that. Thank you for joining me under the beautiful banyan. This series is called Proof of Life, and this is episode 3, Michigan Elite Teens. This is a story about how I managed at 14 years old to help pay bills and buy gym shoes, only making $1 at a time. I was bitten by the entrepreneurial bug very young. Between the ages of 9 and 13, your girl was out here hustling and selling everything you can imagine door to door. Let me not, that might have been the wrong way to say that. Very legal things. I was selling submarine sandwiches, handmade magnets, candy, and like all types of things door to door. I've always been super creative, very driven, and very tenacious. If I need something, I am going to tap into my gifts and get what I need. That's why God gave us the gifts. And so I've always been like that. I've always been very driven in that way. So it's 1989. I'm a freshman at Cass Tech High School in Detroit, Michigan. They called us the technicians. Cass is one of those schools, one of the few schools in the city where you had to test to get in. You had to have a certain GPA, and then you had to maintain a certain GPA in order to stay in. Now, with that came a certain caliber of people, if you will. And we certainly had a lot of folks that went to the school whose parents had a little bit more than maybe some of the parents from, other schools. And so a lot of these kids dressed a certain way. They had like their parents had resources where they can have like nicer clothes and nicer shoes and like all of the things. I, on the other hand, that was not my environment. I just happened to be super nerdy and really smart, and I got accepted into the school. I didn't have nothing though. I was bummy. Um, and so I was excited to get accepted, but I was also very nervous because I knew the reputation of the school, and I knew I wasn't going to measure up in quite a few of the ways. One, while I was nerdy and a lot of the kids that went to the school was nerdy, I was also weird. I've always been very weird, and I embrace my weirdness, and I feel like I always have. So I was very weird. I was bummy. I didn't have a whole lot, and I had a chip on my shoulder because of those things, in addition to a bunch of other things. I had a chip on my shoulder. So I was really nervous about going to Cass, but I was excited. So I was like, okay, let me just figure out how to at least get some better clothes and some nicer shoes. And so while I've always went out door to door selling stuff, at this point I was like, I really need a job, right? This is how my thinking was. I was like, I really need a job. And so I wanted to work Monday through Friday after school, and I needed a certain dollar amount that I wanted to make so that I could help with the lights and stuff, because we was always having like utilities cut off and not enough to pay rent, and we never had like toilet paper and toothpaste and just basic necessity type stuff. And I was like, okay, I need to make a certain dollar amount so that I can get those things that I need, in addition to helping with some of these bills. But I'm 14, right? And at that time, I think I could have got a work permit, whatever it was. I couldn't get a job that would pay me what I needed it to pay because I was so young. And so I'm scouring a newspaper. That's how we found jobs back then, was in a newspaper. We ain't had no internet. So I'm scouring a newspaper. I'm asking like different people, parents, do they know somebody who can give me a job? So I'm exhausting all of my resources to try to find this job. And I don't remember how I found Michigan Elite Teens, but I found this company that would take kids out door to door to sell their products, right? Or I thought it was their products back then, but turned out it wasn't. But anyway, to sell their products, right? Each item cost $4. And of that $4, we would get $1 for every item that we sold. So how it would work is like your team lead would come out, pick you up in this van and drive you to the suburbs to sell this stuff. So it would maybe be like 10 kids on the van. And my team lead was a heavyset black guy, maybe 35, 38 years old, named Bill. Super cool, real laid back. And so Bill would come pick us up like at the designated area. And I think he even would pick us up from the house. He picked me up from the house. And I kind of remember that he would pick us up from the house. And then he would take us out to suburbs. And so we would do like Ferndale, Dearborn, um, Redford, Westland, like these little suburbs of Detroit. If you're from the D, what up, though? And so he would take us out, we would go door to door and we would sell these items. $1 per item is what we got. So in my head, I'm a planner. So I'd already started planning like, okay, I need to make this dollar amount. So I need to sell this many items. And the items that we sold was peanut brittle, these little candles. And now you can see the candles in the dollar store for $1. We sold these little candles, uh, peanut brittle pecan clusters, caramel pecan clusters, and then this waterproof, if you will, table coloring cloth for kids. So it's essentially a tablecloth with drawings on it, and the kids can color, and then the parents wipe it off and they can use it again. We sold 4 items. Every once in a while, we have like a bonus item, but we sold 4 items. I figured out what I needed to make, and I knew how many boxes or how many items I needed to sell from my box. We would start with, I think, 10 or 15 items in our box. He would put 2 people on a street. I would take one side of the street. My partner would take the other side of the street, and we would walk door to door on our respective sides and sell these items. Bill would drive to the corner and meet us there. And he would like go block to block to check on all the kids. And then when you get to the end of that block, he would come back to check on you, make sure you're good, make sure nobody snatched you up. And then see if you needed water in the summertime, because we did this year round. And then also to see if we needed more items in our box. You may have run out of peanut brittle. You may have run out of pecan cluster, caramel clusters, and he would just refill your box. There was also a bonus. So whoever sold the most on any day, you would get a bonus that day, right? I am very driven. And so I made it my business to always sell my box out, not once, but twice. And then sometimes even more than twice. And then I would get, for the most part, I always got the bonus for that day. And the bonus would be like $10, $8, something like that, normally about $10. And so I always sold out at least one box, more than likely 2. And then most of the time I got the bonus as well. Now you're probably asking, Maria, how did you always sell out? And how did you always, or for the most part, get the bonus? Because I've been doing this for a while. So a lot of the kids that were on my van, this was their first job. This was their first experience doing work in this way. This was for the most part, their first experience selling door to door like this. And so it is intimidating. I know, because when I was 9 selling submarine sandwiches, it was intimidating as hell. So for a lot of these kids, it was intimidating to walk up to strangers and ask them to buy something, especially ringing a doorbell. Now, back then, this was way more acceptable than it is today. So in addition to me having that experience, I am very teachable. So Bill will give us like little pointers, little tips, little things that we can say and do to garner the sympathy, if you will, of the homeowner. And I listened to all that shit, and I took it and I used it. And so, and I'm like 5'4", so maybe then I was like 5 foot or 4'8" or 4. I was small. I've always been very small, very petite. I didn't have a lot, so I looked not the best, but I was very articulate. I was very respectful. I made eye contact. I complimented the homeowner on whatever I could find. Yeah, I'm talking about whatever I could find. I like your shoe. I like your house shoe. That's a nice house shoe. Like, it didn't matter for me. I was going to find something to compliment that person on and be genuine about it. I wasn't like shooting the shit or, lying. I would find something so I can compliment them. Your porch is really pretty. I like your flowers. And just all the tips that I could get, I used them. And so it wasn't hard for me to warm people to me. It was not. And so if we have 15 things in our box, I sold 30 because I'm going to get my box filled at least once. And if that bonus was $10, I got it. So it was nothing for me to earn $40 to $60 a day sometimes. 40 easy. But sometimes I would go home with $60, $70. That's a lot of money at 14 for somebody who don't have nothing. It was a lot. And I was so proud of myself. And I was so proud to be able to help with the lights and to be able to buy laundry soap and to be able to buy dish liquid and my own soap. Like, I had, at this time, I was living with my mother, but my sister was the one who was kind of paying most of the bills, if I remember right. And so it was kind of like both of their houses, right? But my sister and I are really close. And so I always went to her to see like what we need. And she would kind of like, no, Reed, keep your money. I'm like, no, 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 I want to help. I took so much. To this day, I take a lot of pride in being able to be supportive and for sure being able to provide for myself, doing my own stuff, like working for myself. I've always been this way. And so I would go to Val and be like, well, what we need? And, and she would be like, well, just buy the dish liquid or just buy like this and that. And I would always do more. And I put a lock on my bedroom door. So I would buy the stuff that Val would tell me to buy for the house, and then I would buy my own and keep it in the room. So in case we ran out of dish liquid, I got some upstairs. I need to wash me a plate so I can eat, right? Or my laundry soap for sure. I buy my own laundry soap. And I would just put a lock on my door so that nobody else in the house would go in there and mess with, because we had a lot of people living with us. My cousins lived with us. It was a lot of people. And I wanted to make sure I always had what I needed. So I would buy my own little stuff, my own soap, my own toothpaste, all my stuff, and I would keep it in my room. This is also the time when I developed a gym shoe addiction. Okay. Because you're talking about a 14-year-old who wants to dress fly, right? Going to school at Cass Tech. So we had a store, a gym shoe store on Grand River and Lasher. It was on Grand River right off of Lasher called Rainer Shoes. And if you're from the D and you remember Rainer, tap in. I went to Rainer's every single week. You hear what I'm saying? I didn't miss a week. I went every week. I would stack my money for them 7 days. I would make sure we got what we need at the house, make sure I got my little stash in the room. And every week I went to Rainer's and I bought me gym shoes. I had Fila, I had Troop, I had Adidas Shell Toast was my thing back then. That's when I started to develop my affinity for Converse. I got a lot of them jokers today. And I bought these gym shoes. It got to a point where my mother said, now this is my money. My mother said, if you bring one more shoe in this house, I was like, okay, that's my money. I snuck them in. So I realized though, maybe a month or two in, so Cass done started, I'm going to school. And I was like, I don't have no damn clothes still. I got a lot of shoes. And so I started buying me a few pieces here and there. But I was so proud of myself that I was able to buy my own stuff and I was able to help out around the house. I stayed with Michigan Elite Teens for a long time. Um, and so yeah, it was a defining moment in my journey of entrepreneurship. And I was so proud of myself. And I'm proud of myself today for just being that way. And I don't even want to know if I want to say it that way because it really is not even me. It's like God designed me this way. I've tried not to be this way and just work a regular job. And my spirit is so at unrest when I'm in those spaces. I have certainly had them, but I like when I'm out and making my own money in that way. You've spent decades caring for everybody around you, raising kids, yours and bonus kids, supporting dreams that were not necessarily yours, and making sure everybody was straight. They was getting where they needed to be, they were getting the things done they needed to get done, and they were meeting their goals. But then what about you? You take what's left over. What about your stuff? What about your dreams, your visions, your most fulfilled life? And then you convince yourself, one day I'm gonna work on my dreams. One day I'm gonna work on my goals. One day I'm gonna focus on me. Well, when is one day? When is one day, and especially at this stage of the game? When is one day, if not now? As a dreamer, a doer, and a lifelong entrepreneur, I get it. I understand it. I know what it's like to see and believe what God has shown me for my life. I know what it's like to have the vision, but it's so big that I stop. I get sidetracked. I get frustrated. I get overwhelmed. I know what it's like to start and then stop. I also know what it's like to say at this stage of the game, one day is now. To have the vision and just need to be able to lay it all out. to make it plain. That is exactly why I created the Vision, a portable vision board, book, and planner, to write the vision and make it plain. So just like you would do with that regular vision board, you're going to find your clippings, whether that's magazine clippings or photographs that you print off at CVS, and you're going to put them jokers in the book. Now, I believe that prosperity is multifaceted, so that's the way I laid the book out. There's a section for every area of prosperity: spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, and financial. So all of my clippings for my visions, I list them in the book, in the chapter for that particular area of prosperity. There's an undated planner with plenty of pages that'll last you throughout the entire year. There are different pages to list out your goals: 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, and you kind of list them out however works best for you. There's also a mastermind sheet. It gives you the space to list out the different people or positions that you need to put in place to help you reach the larger goals. And then there's what I call the meat and potatoes of this book. It's called a 90-day plan. It walks you through how to break down the larger goals into small, bite-sized pieces. I know you've heard the adage, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. That's exactly the way we're going to tackle these goals and visions, one bite at a time. Sometimes the biggest roadblocks to accomplishing our goals and meeting our visions is being overwhelmed. This walks you through how to take that off the table. So every 90 days, you'll list out some small bite-sized pieces that work towards the larger goal, and that's all you work on for that 90 days. There are 4 sheets in this book, one for each quarter of the year. This is a great way to break those larger goals down into small bite-sized pieces to eliminate that overwhelm that often stops us from reaching the goal. And then there's also some blank journal and note-taking pages in the back. And then there's an elastic ribbon to close everything off. This book fits in your purse, your backpack, making it super convenient to carry it with you every day. The goal is to stay focused on your visions. Vision boarding should not be about a vision board. It should ultimately come down to creating and executing a plan to have the things, the people, and the experiences that not only you deserve, but those that are for your highest good. Otherwise, it's just an app or a clunky board or a book with pretty pictures. Dreams are just dreams without vision. Vision only comes into focus with goals, and goals are not met without a plan. Your dreams deserve daily attention. You don't leave your phone at home. You don't leave that big ass tumbler at home or any of the other must-haves that you tote around in that bag or that backpack. Why would you leave something as important as your visions and the plan to get them behind? Why would you do that? Grab your vision, a portable vision board, book, and planner today, and let's turn those dreams into your new reality. Now let's get back to the story. My hustle wasn't just about income. It was about identity. It was about how I saw myself. It was about my self-esteem, certainly with, me wanting to not fit in, but it's certainly back then, that's what it was. I wanted to fit in. Now I understand better. But back then I wanted to fit in. I wanted to have nicer clothes. I didn't want to be the subject of bullying and being teased and talked about. I was already weird as it was. And so it provided me a way to start to build my self-esteem. And so it wasn't just about the money. It really was about how I felt about myself, how I saw myself, and how other people treated me based on my circumstances, right? And in addition to that, my tenacity paved the way for me to not only be able to get the things that I needed, but help in the space where other people were taking care of me. My mother and my sister were taking care of me. I wanted to be able to provide something, add something, be of help in some way, because we was all doing it together. We was all struggling. We was all not having and being in the dark and trying to figure that out. I wanted to help. And so it wasn't just about the money. It was about being responsible for my own life. Golly. Yeah, being responsible for my own life. And that's something that to this day is a strong belief of mine. Y'all can't see it, but on this wall, I have a canvas that I created, and I'm going to put a screenshot up of it, but I'll read it to you. And it essentially says, I am responsible for my life. It is my decisions, perspectives, beliefs, and resilience that ultimately decide what my life looks like, not my childhood experiences, not those in positions to nurture me, not a single person outside of myself. I believed that back then, even not knowing that verbiage, and I believe it wholeheartedly today. And so that's what Michigan Elite Teens gave me. That's what it provided me. It provided me a way to be responsible for myself. And I'm so grateful for it. All right, so the area of alignment that this story falls into is values, the things that are important to us. And so this was alignment in action. This having this opportunity to work for this company put in my path the understanding that values, the things that are important to me, are within my control. They are within my within my power. Let me say it that way, because I understand the only person that got control is God. But it put in my path the understanding that I have the power to affect change and to get the things that I need for myself. The value was I believed in being consistent, because I'm 14, going to work every day after school at a school that was put a lot of demand on me because I had to maintain a certain GPA, and it was like 3.8, if I remember correctly. That's a lot for a kid who's in a environment that is not conducive to being in a school with this strict requirement. My household was chaotic, and so to be able to manage that and school was a lot. But that's a story for another day. At 14, I was already clear on what was important to me. Earning my own way, what we just talked about, being responsible for myself, being able to help those who were supporting me, being my sister and my mother, and then staying committed to my education, which is my growth work. Growth work has always been important to me, and it was then as well. That's value. That's the value piece in invested alignment. Living by your standards, not just professional. All right, so the belief and the reframe. I believed I could provide for myself and help my family without sacrificing my education. That belief was not fantasy. It wasn't off in la la land. I wasn't like, oh, I need to make $1 million. No, I just needed to be able to provide for myself. That belief wasn't fantasy, and it required intentionality, dedication, and consistency. The reframe, there's not a reframe. I still feel that same way today. I have everything in me to get everything that I need. But what I've come to understand and realize even deeper is this. When my values are clear, I'm intentional with my time and decisions, and I take one bite at a time, I get things done. Even if I have no idea how it's going to happen, it always works out for my highest good, whether that's the exact thing I wanted or not the thing I wanted at all. It always works out for my highest good, because that's how my God works. I don't need to know how it's going to happen. All I need to do is put one foot in front of the other, stay faithful, tenacious, and committed, and it will happen as it should. It's always been that way. I have everything I need in me to meet my needs, because that's all I wanted. When I found that job at Michigan Elite Teens, that's all I wanted, was to be able to meet my needs. I wasn't even kicked up on desires, although I got a few of them with them dang shoes. But I just wanted to meet my needs. And that experience showed me that I have everything I need every single time to do that. And so do you. All right. So at the end of every story, I give you what I call actionable integrations. If this story resonated with you, here are some things that you can consider. Number one, get clear on the needs and or desires, and understand and get clear about the difference between the two as well. I know that seems like we all should know that, but sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes we get clouded in our thinking. And so if that's that, I want you to consider this, not the fantasy, right? Not the IG post, not the IG flex, not that, but the real need, right? Get really, really clear on that. And then get clear on the desires, because I think those are important too. Hence the gym shoes. I think the desires are important as well. But first, let's focus on the needs. So get clear on both, and make sure that you're clear about the distinction between the two. Number two, Inventory your power, right? What can you do that you are not? Because sometimes we give our power away, we relinquish our power, we minimize our power, we reject our power because we want to be a victim. Get really, really clear on what you can do that you are not, what you are waiting on somebody else to do that you can do yourself, what part of you is waiting for perfect timing, right? What part of you is waiting for resources that really you can, is other things that you can be doing, right? So some things require money and you don't have the money to do it. In that thing, though, I'm sure there are pieces that do not require money that you can be working on right now. They just require time. So maybe take an inventory of how you're spending your time. And then the last piece, number 3, is create the plan. All right, so there is that. Those are my seeds for today. Thank you so much for giving me your time and attention. I really appreciate you. Until next time, continue to get invested in your alignment. Drop some seeds that'll be of support to somebody else, and you keep being a beautiful banyan.